Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning, and we are almost in October. I cannot even conceive this idea that summer is gone, and then now it's the last day of September. Deborah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, so we are here in Facebook, and as always, we begin this week. Good morning, Scott. Thank you for watching us. We had a little sound issue in earlier time, but we will continue and do what we're supposed to do. Unfortunately, our regular co-host, Sue Schiniman, is in Virginia. She's traveling today, and so right at this moment, while we are cheering her with a cup of coffee, Sue, have a good and safe flight. We can't wait for you to come and continue this. And Deborah, please speak. I think I might even have a sound issue on my side. So just say some, Scott, maybe since you're watching, you let us know that you're here. It might be on my side of the studio. But I'm Lydia Istomina, and I'm so honored to be with Deborah today to say maybe a few words. Besides that, we are greeting the fall and the beauty, and people I know take off and they drive northeast. I know quite a few of our church members, Sid and Lydia, they left for northeast. Yes, Deborah, you have a sound. Scott just said, so please talk. I think it's me that I don't hear you. And I made you going through all these loops to check your sound. I apologize. So, okay, how about you, Deborah? Greet our viewers.
Well, sometimes the change is hard. And when we greet the seasons, we look forward to the seasons. We look forward to the change, something new, something different. But in other ways in our lives, we decide that I don't want to. I like this season. In our lives, we have different seasons.
Absolutely. And then, yes, we do. But also, imagine when people travel in a small car together for hours, those differences pop up, right? So that's what I think we have to learn as humans, to hear each other, to listen, to really listen. Sometimes when we get flammable, we act on what we hear. But the secret is in listening and trying to understand another person's point of view. And then in this case, we hear, but we hear something different. Am I right?
Absolutely.
And
I think go ahead. We have a different lens. We put glasses on, but in our mind we have lens. In our emotions,
it's so true.
They color our view of the world.
Absolutely. But since we are in a Monday coffee hour blessings, I think it's very good to think about coffee for a minute. And I think what does a coffee for us people in the morning, it kind of clears that fog and maybe some grumpiness of early morning hours. And then we might even I can really listen now and I can be attentive, right? So that's what happy Monday coffee hour, and let's be blessed. So what is the topic today, Deborah?
Well, I think we're going to talk a little bit about collaboration and working together and seeing past our own filters and perhaps looking at something through someone else's view.
Yeah, that's a great topic. Since we are in the church, we are dealing with this interesting series that is called What If? And last Sunday we talked, and you and Sue talked about what if we do not have all the answers, and we don't have to. And I think the new view of a strong leader is a good leader does not give all the answers. The good leader says, I don't have the answer. And that's an invitation to people to think and to share and to find the answer together. And I think that's essential. So since you said about, yes, go ahead.
Not to know everything.
Yeah.
It relieves the pressure and stress from you and from the other person.
And you know, the problem with that is some people sort of have deafness for another person's point of view. As soon as somebody starts speaking, they kind of shut their ears and hearing and wait impatiently to say what they think. That's certainly not a dialogue.
No, I've struggled with that over my life. I haven't an innate need to talk. and I've had to tell. I have these internal conversations saying, "Be quiet, shut up. Let someone else." But it's constant battle for me.
It's very hard because we all, first of all, we are all social beings. And especially people now after COVID, after this being shut inside, shut out of the world, and then not having enough communication. Internet and phone are good, but kind of communication in person, nothing can replace that. And I think people get out of that pandemics with this desire to say everything they've learned and they heard. And I talk to a few people when I say, listen, conversation should be like a ping pong. It should give another person a moment when they do their part, but it's a hard lesson. It's such a hard lesson. And myself, like you, sometimes I have so much to say that I just have to make a mental effort to break it and then listen. It's hard.
I have a very hard time with that. But my musical training has helped me learn to listen. Because music is a collaboration where people work together to make a beautiful sound or something that will touch someone's soul. But the collaboration is what makes it beautiful.
You know, that's maybe why I cannot sing in the choir. With my music education, and I was in a choir back in the music school, but I always like a solo. So, you see, that's, I know, thank you for making me face who I am, but I just don't know what it is. I love the choir when the choir sings, but I don't blend well because I always feel like I should be heard, but that's what I admire, people who know how to collaborate.
Whether it's a singing, or whether it's an instrumental ensemble or symphony. In my small town where I came from here, we had a hometown symphony. It was a very small town. It's improbable to expect a symphony in a small place. But it's amazing the talent it drew people out. And so they became a group together. They're still going strong. It's hard to imagine, but people want that connection.
And you know, people who are talented, it is interesting because we know that musicians and actors, they have a certain ego. And of course, everybody wants to show off. But the thing is that when people collaborate, it's a different product. A solo is beautiful, but even a soloist needs an accompanist, right? And then when it is a duet, I remember how when back in music school, I had to, it was a class, accompany class. So you have to learn how to accompany another professional. And so one day I had a class with a clarinet player. And he stood above my shoulder, and he was kind of taking breath and making the sounds that were just like, yeah. And then I also noticed that out of clarinet, once in a while, the kind of humidity drips. And I was absolutely not impressed. So either he was not a good prepared, but he was actually a teacher, one of the teachers. And I was not impressed absolutely about that role being a second person, So, but that's what it is. It's certain humility, kind of humbleness.
It's
A gift, yes, it's a gift of, yes. Tell us more about it since you are a musician. So, what does it take to humble yourself, knowing that you are very talented?
Well, you don't start out being beautiful and having all this. You have a gift, but if you don't develop it, it doesn't go anywhere, and you can't share it with anyone. Because I can remember sitting in math class, and I would sit at the very back because I did not want anyone to know that I didn't know. And I prayed they wouldn't call on me. With music, it was different. I had piano lessons from when I was a little girl, so I read music. I felt like I could blend in right away. But with other subjects, I don't have that gift. We all come to the table with something different.
Interesting. I even wanted to joke for a second when you said about preferring to sit in the back. Is it why people in the church sit in the back? I don't want to pick on anybody. But okay, I want to welcome everybody again. And then when we had this warm up and started sharing about the importance of collaboration, because this is what the topic of today's conversation with Deborah about. And so yesterday we raised this question on Sunday: what if? What really will happen in our society, in our world, honestly between the world leaders, if everybody will have this gift and understanding of the importance of humbling ourselves? And then we based it on the Gospel of Mark. And the interesting thing, if it's okay, Deborah, I will summarize what it is about, this gospel reading. So remember how Jesus just talked to his disciples about his death, coming death in the previous verses. He confided in them, this trusted 12 who followed him. Very good disciples, passionate, and he tells them about his death. And then instead, they were afraid to ask a question. And that fear in us very often makes us paralyzed. And instead, we immediately start worrying about ourselves. And that's what happened to disciples. They asked him in the last verse, Mark 9, verse 37, they ask, who is the greatest? Imagine, he tells them about his death and being betrayed, and disciples worry about who is the greatest and why. Because they suppressed their fear, they suppressed who they were. And then they come to him in these verses from 38 through 50 actually. It's a long reading, one of the most difficult in the Bible, in the New Testament. And so they talk about someone. And this is John who comes to Jesus. John who is not mentioned in the Gospel of Mark at all. And suddenly he comes to Jesus and he says, teacher, there is someone who is casting demons in your name. And Jesus says, who is not against us is for us. And that's a key, I think. What do you think, Deborah?
Well, I think that we don't listen, and we look, and I think the disciples are looking for the next Jesus. I think they're afraid of being alone. and that they have no leader and no way to move forward without him. So now they're saying, well, who's the made the greatest among us? We'll make him the leader. And that's kind of what I hear. I hear the fear. And we fear what we don't know. And even though he's been teaching them all along what the job is, what the work will be when he's gone, and we all are going to go someday. And back then, life expectancy wasn't so great. And so he could have gone at any time, even though he was a young man, because life expectancy wasn't so great. So I think they're looking to the future and to what am I going to do now? I'm afraid. That's how I view that.
It's true that I didn't think of that angle. Thank you. That life expectancy was low, and the fear to be left behind, left alone, and then having to survive. But especially here, their favorite teacher, who gave them just such a big, beautiful hope, suddenly says, I will be betrayed, I will die. And yes, and so then, instead, I know how it is in a hurry. People start like putting things together and then, oh, we have to survive. Survival is a horrible thing, but that's kind of a topic for another day. But in this particular reading, we don't know what happened between disciples asking Jesus about who is the greatest, and he tells them the one who will serve, who become a servant actually, who will become the least of all and serve others is the greatest. Kind of a paradoxical. He always turns things upside down, Deborah. This Jesus, right?
Well, and the thing about that, I have a hard time with that. Because I know he loves us, and I know he gives us each with more than one gift. People sometimes get locked into a idea that they only have one thing they can do well. But if we trust in him, he has gifted us richly. And so it's hard. I find it hard sometimes to be humble because I know that he gifted me, and so I want to step out in those gifts. I want to live it, but I forget that I can't live my truth at the expense of others.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I put on the screen the sort of a core message in these verses that instead of putting this whole reading from Mark 9:38 through 50, I put this simply the core message that disciples they've been worried. So it's kind of a paraphrasing. Our demons in Jesus' name, and Jesus corrects them, teaching that true discipleship is about collaboration, not exclusivity. But why? He does not know who they're talking about, right? What if it is the enemy? What if it is the one who will betray him or torture him, right? So, but since we're talking about humbling ourselves, the core of what he says is who is not against us is for us. It's hard to comprehend, right?
Because everybody to Jesus and to God differently. It doesn't mean they're not kind, loving, and they don't exist. Live our truth. They have been in an exclusive group. The disciples were kind of an exclusive group. Yeah. You have to be chosen to be in the group. And so people who were chosen had to be less than us.
Absolutely. Right, but you said, yes, that's essentially what it comes to, down with this message, them versus us. And this is what divides the world. Because it's always like disciples, you see, the reason they were so grumpy and grumbled about that man, I think there are two reasons. And tell me if I'm not right. First of all, So they see this strange man casting out demons, right? And he is successful. He really is healing people. And would you or me not kind of jealous because maybe just a week ago or maybe the other day, maybe I tried to cast out demons from somebody and I did not succeed, right? And maybe neither did you. And then so we are talking to each other like, isn't it horrible? This guy or this girl is casting demons and she is not even one of us.
Yes.
You see that? Do you think that this is something that what is hidden in that message?
Yes. And I think we do it today. I don't think we've lost that ability, and we should.
You see, that's what the coffee helps. Suddenly, like, wake up, Lydia. It's you're not fallen far off disciples because we still kind of a very cliquey. Even like if we belong to one church or belong to one group or one choir, and then we just like we take anybody else like a stranger, right?
Yes.
So them versus us. So it's just like, and that's what I've learned the lesson last Friday. I shared it in the church, and it's really rolling in my head how many lessons I was blessed with by this story with my 2012 Toyota Prius, with my spoiler that I actually stripped off by backing out of the garage door. So like I said, the garage door and my spoiler did not like each other. So they did not become friends. And so struggling with that, fixing the problem that could cost me at least $500. I've met this guy, and I will put it on the screen, that them versus us, right? So here I am coming. I found this a body shop, very humble, as you see in the picture. And the name is Rusty's. And so interesting place, chicken and roosters walk around and the doggy, and it's like a home-based business, a big hangar. And so this young guy Alec says, no problem, I will do it. And I'm saying, oh, I will teach you how to do it because I watched a YouTube video, because this is the first time he does this part of this type of work. And he is so humble, he does not tell woman, just step out and I will fix it. But so I guide him and I feel good about it. And so to make it short, they did not charge me $1 even for an hour of work,
And you were the advertising.
Yeah, exactly. And so
I can see myself doing something like that.
I know. But you see, my problem was I knew how to do it and I had all the tools, but I could not remove this lining, plastic lining. And I used my nails and I used a knife and I just like, it did not get, but I was pulling out the wrong piece, you see. He started from the very top and I started in the middle, but they all kind of clicked like connected. And so finally, when he ripped off this, you see, like the sides of the very, very close piece to the window, then I said, oh, that's how it is. But the point is that collaborating, you see, so Jesus wants us not to be alone. That's the whole point of discipleship. That's what he says, if you are not against us, you're for us, as long as you're doing God's work. So tell me, Deborah, let's talk about it. What is God's work? What does God want us to do?
Well, that's a huge thing. It's hard to put in just a few words. But he calls us to love others as we love ourselves and love God most of all.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two greatest commandments, and that's how I look at it.
Very true. And that's what he says, essentially what he says, by saying who is not against us is for us. If people do good, like in this case, this guy is healing in his name. So let him do that. So Jesus tells the disciples to allow others to do ministry in his name. And so that expands our view, and their view, of course, to begin with, of discipleship. because discipleship is not about, oh, I need to be saved. It's all, of course, about individual growth and transformation and what we need to do every day. And so, what we need to do ourselves, we need to humble ourselves, first of all, and pray, right? So, that's what Jesus wants us to do. But also, that next one is what I've learned in that Rusty's shop. Besides that, the owner was so very kind and did good to his neighbor. See, that's what Jesus tells us, love your neighbor. I was a stranger and they took me in and they took care of me. But also he teaches his employee to do the same things, not to be greedy, welcome a stranger, help in a time of need. And so that's what it is, collaborating in God's work that you talked about between musicians. What a great example, Deborah. Musicians are like on the stage, that's what they do.
Well, and the training is so specialized. And I think the disciples felt like they had specialized training also, and that nobody else could possibly know because they've had this relationship with the master. So how could
Yes.
someone else know without knowing the master?
Absolutely. We have a comment from Scott Kiddle. Thank you, Scott. Let's read that, Deborah. Having a close knit circle of friends is healthy, but intentionally excluding others can rob everyone from unexpected richness of new relationships. Then you have a clique. Oh, thank you. That's a good one. Yes, thank you very much. Because for this insight, Scott, because this is what Jesus wants us to do. He wants us to get outside of our walls. And Deborah, you and Sue, maybe next time can share about these fresh expressions, the training that you took, and why. What is that fresh expressions about?
Well, and I think it's so important. And I think to open that up again to more people, because I've noticed that those who attended the fresh expressions approach many things differently in the church. Something as simple as Sunday school. Things are said by people who didn't attend the fresh expression, and those who have attended the fresh expressions, we have a new lens. And so we need to give others the lens that we have, so we can be more on the same page.
Absolutely. And you see, Jesus has, and God has a bigger plan for all of us as disciples. And what I want to bring on the screen now is what is going on around the world.
Yes.
Because if you think about what Methodist Church does and all Christians around the world presently, right now, so many things are happening. And if we just stay in our cliques, right, that's what you say with fresh expressions, we need to go where people are. We need to be where people have a need. And so this week, actually, for the last 2 months, Zimbabwe is going through a very horrific drought. At the same time, in Tanzania, it is a flood. So people are either having no crop or they have too much water. But at the same time, yesterday I was approached by Judy Hill, and she was tearful because her part of the family is northeast, where we have this hurricane. So Georgia especially was hit, and Florida, and North Carolina. And you see what happens is that she worries about her youngest son. So we put him on the prayer list. The house was hit so hard. People don't have electricity for a week. And then, of course, flooding and that fear, and the trees have fallen. So that's what we can't just stay and worry about who is the greatest, right?
No.
But instead, Jesus wants us to get out of our walls.
Well, and the other thing about it is, too, I'm sure the Methodist Church is finding ways to serve in North Carolina, in Florida, in Georgia. So I think that through our gifts and offerings, we support those missions, even though we're not aware of where the church is working. So I think that's important to remember.
Yes, and what I really learned, my lesson was I came home and I told my husband how interesting it is that not knowing, again, back to that situation with my car and this Rusty's body shop, that I came back home and I said, I just met the man who is the salt of the earth. You know, because this particular reading that we talked a little about today, the last verse is about being the salt of the earth. And if salt loses strength, nothing can replace it. And so that's what we constantly need to work on, our spirit, our connection with God. But that means being in collaboration with other people. Because even if I talk to my husband and you talk to your husband, even beginning with the nucleus, right? Then if you lose that communication, you stop learning. You stop hearing another person's opinion. Coming back to what we talked in the beginning, Deborah, listening and opening our ears.
And the thing about salt and salt not being what it used to be, I think we're going to lose our potency or effectiveness if we collaborate. So we're not as effective. I think there's that misunderstanding.
Say more.
Well, I just feel that sometimes we know we see everything clearly. We just know it. Like you at the auto shop. And so we have this information and we want to share it with everyone, but we don't allow for others to add to the stew because we're afraid that we're going to lose our specialness and our effectiveness.
Yeah, so much. Yeah, so many layers. You're right. And but again, to begin with, maybe making the first step is to expand our view of God, expanding our view of ourselves, and like your fresh expression start, right? Expanding our view of discipleship. So what it means that always thinking not only of our own salvation, our own growth, but also about another person's growth. And that's what I think when we invite others into this circle, then we grow. That's the only way to grow. Like, follow me, Jesus says, follow me, instead of getting on the road alone. So collaborating, that's I think the essence of our message today. If people do good, they're not against you guys, right? So if they do good in this world, if they do not harm anybody, maybe they don't go to your church, maybe they do not go to your circle, but they do good, so they are not against you. And I think especially now when we come to election, people get so flammable, seeing others as them and those who think alike as us. But it's not about that. It's not them versus us. It's about the world that we preserve and the beauty of the world and the friendship and love. And so do good. What do you think?
I agree, and I don't think that any one person or one country or one party or one church has all the answers, but together we can find them.
Yeah. I think that's what. Thank you, Deborah. I think that concludes our time today. We had a good time. We missed Sue. So I had to step in, but next morning I can't wait when Sue will come and you can share together. So join us every Monday. And we will be happy to, I'm trying to put on the bottom that join us for Monday Coffee Hour. Get blessed. Listen to Deborah and Sue Shineman, and every time their discussions are priceless. God bless you all.
Goodbye. Have a good week.
Goodbye. And I'm trying to find our coffee.